The scheme is to provide older persons accommodation within Haverfordwest, much needed older persons accommodation, 1 and 2 bedroom units, and to also provide a reablement facility of 12 beds to help people back to their normal accommodation. This is a short-term facility where residents will reside for 6 weeks or so. There'll be on-site provision for the needs to be assessed. So basically, when they come out of hospital, to go into the reablement facility to have the needs assessed before their well-being improves and they're able to go back home. So the scheme has been developed with working with our colleagues Paul Dobson and Hydrock, who are with us today. The building is going to be sited on the Rifleman's Field car park and the footprint of the old Haverfordia house building, which we demolished last year. So the site is clear, ready to go, and the plans, as you'll see shortly, will have been developed to be a top-class facility and provide people with much needed low energy and a high-quality living accommodation in Haverfordwest.
The site is surrounded by housing. To the north, there is the leisure centre. There's also the St Thomas car park, which is just through a little lane, which is called Rifleman's Lane, which takes us to the north there. And we're also, as Chris pointed out, is that the site itself is actually the former the car park, but also the former site of the Haverfordia house, which I'm just highlighting with my arrow. Okay, so what I'm going to do, hopefully, is just jot straight into the design and access demo. I'm going to try and I'm going to whistle through this a little bit because obviously there's quite a lot of background supporting information with this documentation. So it may well be, well, with a bit of luck, others may well have had a chance to read it. But just to set a little bit of context for you, you can just about make out a blue line, which is the designated site or ownership, if you like, boundary that has been defined by the council. But the site itself is actually the former Haverfordia house, and the brief was to take as little, if you like, of the car park to actually facilitate the project. I'll come on to that in a bit more detail in a minute. There's a couple of views, just so for context. This is obviously pre-demolition of the Haverfordia house on the top view, but it shows quite an expansive car park. It's one of those funny angled lenses of the camera, so you're actually seeing a distorted view, but it is obviously a car park from north to south. You can just make out the leisure centre block in the background on the left. The middle picture, again, is just giving you an idea of the expanse of the car park, but a couple of things to note. As you'll see, between the car park and the old Haverfordia house, there is actually a reasonably mature line of vegetation. We'll come on to that in a minute about what we need to do with it in order to facilitate the project. But perhaps more importantly, there's one on the left-hand side. And that provides a good screen between the car park and the balance of the playing field, which you can see on the bottom shot. It's this playing field which obviously is the main community attraction to the area, and it is one of the main reasons why there is clearly a car park here to give access to the public for this facility. This mature hedgerow that is, well, it's now become a mature hedgerow and has actually been enhanced by some additional tree planting, is, we believe, an important divider between the project and the rest of the community break. So it is something that we're hoping to enhance and make better use of. Just a couple of other things to point out is to the north of the site, there is what's called Rifleman's Lane. It's a bit of a funny access, I have to say, up towards the leisure centre. It's a bit of a chicane with sort of complex ownerships of and access rights to not only a small house, but a sort of outdoor sort of pump, not a pump station, but a plant room. There's also the back end of the GP surgery, and then there's access to various little bits of car parking. It is, if the brief and the funding were to allow, clearly it would be wonderful to try and enhance that journey from the north into the site. But at the moment, we're somewhat constrained by the brief being confined to the car park area. Second image down is just showing you the current sort of, it's not a kissing gate, but it's the way into the playing field. And you can just make out what would have been the tennis courts. I think it's just a courted area at the moment. That's an important access into the site, which we're wanting to maintain, but we also want to make sure that we don't lose the visibility of that for the public coming from the north. Another picture of the car park there. Let's just move on to the next one. Okay, a few things obviously that we do when we're analysing the site is just to grab all the information that we possibly can. As you'd expect, the utilities and the like are in the area, so none of that is a particular problem. The only real issue that we've got in terms of a constraint is an existing attenuation tank, which is probably better seen on this next image, which is the light blue rectangle which is in the car park there. This is just below the surface of the car park and is actually dealing with the surface water runoff from the car park, plus a little bit of the outlying area as well. And so it is something that we can't move, and we certainly can't disrupt in any way. So we have to take that as a constraint for when we come to actually do the building. A few other things on there is pains to point out that, and it'll come evident in a minute when I show the sort of design evolution, is that to the northeast there is an established route into the site going past the NFU building, but that is actually only a right of access. It's not actually part of the ownership, and with that comes some constraints. We had hoped that we could actually make best use of that in terms of, if you like, splitting the access for the facility, because Chris quite pointed out that there are two aspects to this project. One is a housing scheme and the other is a reablement centre, and a thought to begin with in the early stages of design that we'd have separate accesses for those to keep the two facilities independent. And we had hoped to use that north access. It is now quite an important constraint, is that we're only allowed to use it for maintenance. So it does mean that we've had to change the ideas of the scheme somewhat, and I'll come on to that in a minute. Another thing that is important is that whilst we're going to need quite a chunk of this car park to actually deliver the building, but we've also been at pains to try and maximise the retention of space as we can, and we'll come on to the numbers in a minute. But one of the things that we want to do was to not have a conflict between the users of the building and the public accessibility. There isn't actually an established public right of way. There's just a route across the car park at the moment, but which actually, going back to that previous photo, you could see was hugging the hedgerow. If we were to maintain that, it would put quite a bit of a constraint on actually how we use the site. So the proposal is, and we'll see visuals of it in a minute, is actually to create a new footpath that actually hugs the other side of the hedgerow and actually goes through along the side of the playing field, which we think is a more interesting and better route from north to south for the public. But it also means that we can maximise the site when we come in to do our scheme. So I've probably mentioned half of these, but there are a few constraints that we've had to take on board. So it's not only the access issue, we've also got proximity to other buildings, which we need to take into account. Haverfordia House, because of it, when it was there, was able to sort of stand proud, and it didn't really matter what was going on around it. But unfortunately, with the legislation these days, we've got to take into account their proximity to residential. So one building in particular, which is this bungalow at the end of the cul-de-sac, which is near to the sort of junction between the two aspects of the site, is actually quite important for overlooking. We've also got a boundary condition between us and the NFU that we need to be careful about as well. Not quite so prescriptive because nobody's actually living in the NFU building, but we still need to take that into account. We've mentioned about the attenuation, which we need to take into account as well. But probably the other key factor for this site is that it just so happens that the Haverfordia House site is actually just over a metre lower than the car park site, so we do have quite a change in level just when we're just where we need to put the building. So we need to come up with a clever way of dealing with that. Okay, so just very briefly, when we started to look at the scheme, and it's just quick recap for those who can maybe remember, is that when we thought we could actually use the north-east access for car parking, we had a very simple diagram, insofar as that we would have a reablement centre that could have its access from the north, and we would have a sheltered housing scheme which could have its access from the south, and we'd have, if you like, two sort of separate courtyards with a potential for linking at ground floor level between the two. Nice diagram, but now it proved to be impractical because of this requirement for maintenance only from the northeast. So we then shifted to a slightly different diagram. And what we looked to do then, and we've gone on from this, but the principle of it was that we would take the principles of this sort of C shape and L shape and expand it further. So we would actually take the courtyard and create a courtyard on the Haverfordia house site and create another courtyard on the other site. So we could actually link the two together with access from the south. That's probably the point at which to sort of show the let's propose site. Sorry, I'm going to go down was it? I think so. Yeah. I'm jumping around a wheel. What we'll do in a minute is we'll go into the 3D. Last time I made this presentation, we went straight into the 3D and came back to the plans. I think people were maybe slightly confused about it. So I'm just going to stick with the plans to begin with, and then we'll go into the 3D. So what's happening here, I've deliberately opened up on the site plan because car parking became a big discussion topic at the last meeting. And I think before we sort of get too far into it, there's most concern about losing car park. Well, we've also got quite a building. When you combine the apartments and the reablement centre, it takes up quite a bit of the site. And we felt that this is probably the most economical way of dealing with it, given that we can't have car parking to the northeast, is that we just need to take as little, if you like, of the car park as we possibly can. Now, there are ways to take less than the car park that we've shown here, but it would mean that the building would have to get taller. And we've also very mindful of the massing of this building, which you'll see in a minute, is that we would have a problem with planners if we over-egg the massing of the building in the context of its surroundings. So this is pretty much the most economical footprint, and we've achieved it by, whilst we've got access to both parts of the building from the same point to the south, we've actually got a reablement. So the orange, if you like, is the reablement courtyard that's actually taking place on the old Haverfordia house site. And then we've got an L-shaped configuration for the sheltered housing. And we're able to sort of deal with both entrances from the same car park because we split them in the middle. The other advantage of doing it this way is that we can take advantage of the change in level, so that the reablement centre can actually sit largely independent of the sheltered housing project. So we can actually have these two different changes and these two different levels working within the same overall building. And what we then do is we marry the floor levels up at the upper level. So just zooming in a little bit, we're going to change the orientation slightly because it's easier to be able to maximise the drawing. So we've just twisted it ever so slightly. So let's just go in a little bit, and you can see, I'll just slide over to the reablement first of all, and coming down here. So in principle, as it stops flashing, is we've created a if you like, a more peaceful, tranquil, and recuperation courtyard. Quiet. It also has a southeast and west facing component to it, and we've actually got reablement ensuite bedrooms either side of the courtyard, and then the sort of centralized facilities of living and dining space up the north of the plan, but clearly they have the southerly aspect out onto what is a more contemplative garden. We are coming in from the south, so we have all the facilities that you would expect in terms of meet and greet, but also multifunction space, office accommodation, and the management of it is done at this point. And we've also, you'll see in 3D when we come to it, is that we've actually completed the courtyard in terms of a pergola that actually goes around, so we can connect it all together and make it feel as an entity in its own right. I'll just come back out again. What we have done then to the north of that is that, as you would expect, all the support facilities that need, like the refuse and the substation, anything that requires access to the kitchen. These are the things that we are going to be allowed to have rear access for. So we put them all to the north there. We then move across to the residential. The residential entrance is actually halfway up the L-shaped plan. That's deliberate so that we can actually get ourselves right up to a communal garden. So it's in part formal garden, and also an informal garden. But that allows the ground floor apartments to have direct access out onto it. And we can see in the middle here is the lift and stair core that takes us up to the upper levels. Sort of the lighter blue turquoise colour is actually common facilities for the sheltered housing project, and the big purple one, we didn't talk about it last time so much, but that's the scooter store. It's been sized obviously for the number of apartments that we have. So what we've got is the ability to actually bring people into the project just from visitors and staff and residents can all access from the south. And they can peel off then depending on which way they're going. Obviously there's a transient relationship for parking for the people in the reablement centre, but you do need to get an ambulance access in and out, so that's important. And then we have the residents who, and I think there's some debate as to whether the spaces are allocated for the residential or they're unallocated. That's to be discussed further. So just quickly going up a floor plan. So you can start to see how this is sort of panning out now in terms of massing. So the L-shaped configuration of the residential continues up again, but what we can do then is, because we've got the reablement in the courtyard below, we can actually do another L over the top of the reablement. So the people who are on the east side of the building will get their view down into the contemplative garden, and people on the west obviously not only get the view of their new garden that they've got, but now you're up high enough to see over the hedgerow into the Rifleman's Field, which is a really pleasant outlook. And it's one of the reasons why we've deliberately orientated the building like this. It's not in the most economical way, the most efficient plan, but it actually gives the best views for east and west. And just to finish the equation, we go up one more. You'll see that actually only the middle of the building has got the tall element. This is because of proximity to other buildings and trying to keep the massing respectful of nearby properties, which will be a matter to discuss further with planning. But what we've got here, just so you know, the blue are basically 1-bed units, the pinky colour are 2-bed, but what we've also got on this top floor is a spare unit, which we're calling it's either temporary accommodation. It could be for visitors, or it could be a warden's flat. That's something that we just need to agree on. But the idea of having a flexible unit works well, I think, for both the reablement, but also if you've got visiting people coming to see, with a sheltered housing project. So that was a slight addition to the original brief, but we think it's actually one that would benefit all. And just a brief plan, we can see that better in 3D. There's obviously air source heat pumps, as our colleagues from Hydrock will explain that in a little bit more detail, and PV up there. And then, just so you know, obviously these are the typical layouts. They're all being worked out in detail, and there's a lot of similarity with the project in Charles Street. In fact, barring a couple of exceptions which have agreed, I think we've called them B2, is that they are pretty much exactly the same as what you've already agreed to do in Charles Street. So there's some synergy there. Okay, so that was that. Now I'm going to jump to the 3D. So please tell me if you can see that. Anyone?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Right, we've got a top-down view. The leisure centre is is up at the top of the page. Rifleman's Field is on the left-hand side. So just zooming in on that, you can see the goalposts for the football. You can see the playground the top left-hand side, and actually what used to be tennis courts, but I don't think they've been used for tennis for quite some time. What you can see is this sort of, it's not a brick path by any means, but it's just denoting a route, a potential new route for the footpath. So what we're doing is we're taking it from where it used to be on the car park side and putting it actually into the far nicer aspect along the, the recently planted alignment, and obviously you've got the hedgerow there. And that would serve as the main public access between north and south. The reason we need to do that is we need to try and control access in and around the building. What you will see, though, just for those that have commented previously, is that there's the dedicated car parking spaces which are around here, and we've still retained that. So in fact, we'll nick you through the hedgerow, so you can actually join that route going north or just going into the playing fields, which I think will help. Right. So you can see from this the sort of idea of the two courtyards. So I'll focus on the reablement courtyard first of all, and then we'll come back. So you've got an idea from this massing now how that might look. You can see at low level the reablement rooms. So each has got a fine view over the garden, and they've got their ensuite accommodation. In the middle of the plan, straight ahead of you at low level then, is the dining and living space, all which will have a southerly aspect, and you can break out onto the contemplative garden, running around a little bit, and then you can see the other wing of accommodation. So some are going to benefit from morning sun, others are going to benefit from evening sun, and hopefully there'll be a good component for those in the living dining area through most of the day. What we've also done, just for connectivity, because it is quite a long walk around, is that actually we set this up through the circulation route, such that we can actually access to the other wing by coming straight from the main entrance, which is, as we said before, on to the south. So what we've got is a wraparound pavilion which deals with all the accommodation that is required front of house for the reablement centre. Importantly, there's the drop-off point for the ambulance and pick up and take away. We've also just set it in such a way that the ambulance can continue in a forwards direction. So the tracking is such that they would actually come through the hatched area there and come back into the car park and out again. We felt that we could keep that reasonably discreet and still have that important entrance. What we've also got then, we're also dealing with things like the cycle store. Well, you can just see a few cycles that are in there, but the scooter store is actually here for the residents, so they have access straight out onto the tarmac. And then we've got the extension of the car park into this area, and that's where the debate is whether these spaces are specifically allocated to residents or not. That will be a decision made by others, but at the moment it's all part of a connected car park with, as you would expect, the requisite number of disabled spaces. So on this side of the building then, pretty much everyone gets either a view of a garden or they're getting a view over the hedgerow. You can just about make that out onto Rifleman's Field, which should be pretty spectacular, I hope. We've got the wraparound with the L. This is where we started to bring the massing down to the building because we felt it was actually a little bit overpowering. And also we were starting to get potentially numbers into the building which couldn't be supported by the car parking and other matters. But the massing was done deliberately, so the scale of it is actually focused in the middle of the site. Okay, we have this funny chicane for Rifleman's Lane. But that brings us to two things it needs to do. One is actually to give us an emergency exit out, but also a deliberate access out for residents who may want to go straight to the leisure centre or straight into town, going north rather than going out south or wrap around. But we've also got to maintain this route, which, yes, we can only use it for service access, but currently it is actually the pedestrians actually can walk down here and turn at that point and go up to Rifleman's Field, or in fact go to Rifleman's Field or go along Rifleman's Lane. So we felt that we really shouldn't be blocking that off, so we've maintained that and kept the security line so that we can make best use of it. Clearly on this side we've just got a simple interface because it's actually it is just service access and escape, and then we've got a very simple relationship with the NFU. There's a slight change in level at that point, but nothing that can't be accommodated. And then as we're looking down on it, there you can see your air source heat pump bank, and you can see the PV panels. And we've done that deliberately so that we didn't have one very large roof. We felt that the massing served better to actually split it into two. And then the benefit of that is that we have a fully accessible platform then to get at the PV panels on either side. And then just a little bit on the detail. I mean, you can see the garden that's there. I mean, what we're actually doing is giving every apartment a balcony. I'm just looking closely here. It looks like there's a layer missing.
Yeah, the railings.
Yeah, the railings have disappeared. Sorry about that. There will be some edge protection, but the balcony is a combination of things. So it's a fixed planter fixed planting screens, and then obviously there'll be a railing in there, which when I go offline, I'll try and find that and switch it back on again for you. But the intention is everybody gets an equitable set of accommodation there with that balcony, with the exception of the flats on this end, who have actually the benefit of a pure south facade, and they can look over what is still a topic for further discussion. Is this biosolar roof, which is a combination of PV panels and a green roof, which is still being debated at the moment.
The main source of heating and hot water generation is via air source heat pumps. I know Pembrokeshire have aspirations to be net zero carbon, or as near to net zero carbon as possible, and air source heat pumps are a very good way of achieving that. As you're all well aware, gas hamstrings us a bit. So in terms of utilities, we do not plan to have gas going into the site, and it is therefore going to be an all-electric system. The air source heat pumps themselves will be located on the flat roof, again as Andrew showed on the 3Ds, and the pipes from those will distribute down to plant rooms located on the ground floor and the first floor. But that's, dare I say, just technical stuff that myself and Dave have to worry about. From a user perspective, from an operator perspective, I think the main or one of the main things to emphasize is that the reablement centre and the long-term residential parts of the building are to be fundamentally completely separate, aside from sprinkler provision. So there will be a shared sprinkler tank, but aside from that, the hot water generation and the heating provision will be the same method will be employed, but the physical air source heat pumps and the physical pipes will be split down the middle of the building. So theoretically, if in the future there was the appetite to sell off the reablement centre or do something different in the reablement centre, the intention would be that there would be minimal impact, if any impact, to the long-term residential, and I guess theoretically vice versa. But so with that in mind, and knowing the intent of the reablement centre and how long people will be there, Neil, you mentioned 6 weeks. There is no need for us to be individually metering each reablement centre en suite. However, with the long-term residential, because as the name implies, they'll be there for a longer period of time, we will, and we have set it up such that each tenant will be able to pay for their own, or rather will be metered for their own electricity use and water usage. So within each apartment, there will be a utility cupboard. In the utility cupboard, there will be what's called a heat interface unit. Fundamentally looks like a boiler, but is slightly different in that it's not serving or not using gas, but it's just transferring, or it's acting like a bit of a middleman between the air source heat pumps and the radiators and your taps in the apartments themselves. And from that, you will be able to meter the heat usage, the hot water usage, the cold water usage, and then separately there will be consumer units for the electrical usage. So that will all be metered separately. As I've just alluded to there, the apartments themselves will make use of radiators, low surface temperature radiators throughout, because of the nature of the building. And each apartment will also be mechanically ventilated with a heat recovery system, to ensure lack of overheating, and B, just to promote decent airflow through each room. So it's not a standard extract system, which is your bog standard requirement for proof document F. It goes above and beyond that, and it is supply ventilation as well. As I said, the building is going to be fully sprinkler protected, and just trying to think if there is too much else that would be relevant. PV allowance, what is shown on the roofs there is still to be confirmed. I do believe it'll probably be significantly more than that. But we just need to confirm that as we're finalising our modelling, and then of course we'll pass that to Andrew and Marta. But again, this is all part of the aspirations for yourselves to be having a building that is net zero carbon, or as near to net zero carbon as we can achieve. So it is a combination of the air source heat pumps and the solar photovoltaic panels on the roofs that will get us there. Dare I say, I think that's pretty much it. Is there anything else you want to add, Dave?
No, I think you've covered most of it, John. Thank you. The only thing I will point out is we've got a substation kind of built into the building, and from that, due to the fact we want to do each half of the building differently, we've got 2 electrical switch rooms. So the one for the reablement is adjacent to the substation. And we've also got an electrical switch room for the long-term residential up in that top left corner there. So we'll be running ducts from the substation in the top right. Yep, thank you very much. One supply will go out to the room next to it, and then another supply will be routed externally through that kind of service yard type area over to where Marta and Andrew are kindly pointing at on the screen now, over that way. And as John mentions, we've got the electrical distribution boards and meters in the long-term apartments. But for the reablement centre, it's just a bulk supply, and the building owner, client, will just get one bill for the reablement centre. We haven't split it down per room because that didn't seem logical. We've also got the comms room in the bottom left-hand side of the building, which is going to do both. That'll be the point where the BT will come in for the apartments, and it'll spider its way up, and it'll also do the data cabling for the reablement centre as well. And that's been sized on council guidance, and I think you could get a fold-down desk in there as well as a couple of cabinets. But yeah, that's pretty much it for us. We're trying to keep it as simple as possible for you guys. The plant on the roof, to accommodate the fact that we've got 2 different systems, there'll be a distribution board from the reablement centre, and there'll be a distribution board from the long-term residential as well, so that we can feed individual air source heat pumps off different distribution boards, and that the billing stays neat then.
We're currently out to pre-application consultation, which is the first phase of planning process. I'm just trying to find the actual dates. That piece of work will be finished by the early in the new year. We're looking at going out to tender then at the end of January. The tender process will last 6 weeks to tender, and then our own internal evaluation and contract award, which we're looking at awarding by May 2022. The contractor then will complete some of the outstanding elements of the design, and we're looking at starting actual works on site in July 2022 with a completion date of October 2023. So that's just a brief summary of anticipated programme dates.